Welcome back to the Mandalorian Aftershow. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And tonight we'll be talking about Chapter 19 of The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 3, The Ringer. We are Dadnarok. We are here each and every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. to talk about The Mandalorian. And we're also doing a Ted Lasso Aftershow every Wednesday. If you're into that, join us for that. But yeah, Mandalorian Episode 3, Season 3, kind of a divisive one, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's got us split
Yeah.
on what we liked, what we didn't like.
Yep.
I like starting with this. Let's start over once you hit stop. What were your impressions of the episode?
Kind of meh. It was a long episode too.
It was a long episode. It was like almost close to an hour. I think it was one of the longest episodes they've done.
Yeah. I was really impressed with the Mandalorian stuff, even though it seems like we got maybe 5 minutes of it, but the 5 minutes we got were really good. That dogfight was high octane action, very well done up front. And then the last part, the intrigue of Bo-Katan kind of joining with the the Mandalorian group that she sees as a cult. So there's some intrigue there as far as what's going to turn around on that. But the Dr. Pershing stuff, I don't know, man. You enjoyed it a lot more than I did.
I enjoyed it a lot more than you did because it actually showed us some things that we have never seen within live action. This is me being a book nerd. The rehabilitation for the actual just everyone that served within the Empire has been done before. And it opens up things that we haven't seen. So I was pumped to see that because there was a whole book called The Alphabet Squadron.
Yeah.
That revolved around things like this, which was fantastic. Some things we can talk about later after we talk about the episode. I don't want to get too deep into it. But I enjoyed it. Now, I didn't at the end of the first time I watched it, I was kind of like you. The beginning of it was awesome. Dude, that flat spin that Din pulls in, what we now know is called the N1. His new ship's called the N1.
Yeah.
So when he went straight up and then he did that flat dead spin down towards that TIE interceptor, that was cool.
Yeah.
Bo-Katan's, fling, wing up, wing down, kind of turn around.
Yeah, her ship has a name too, but I forget.
Yeah, Empire-ish or something like that. She's like, yeah, you took their stuff. But yeah, the middle stuff, it was jarring because
was it din jarring?
It may have been din jarring because it wasn't Mandalorian. It's not the format and the style we know as the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And then the ending of it, back with Bo-Katan and everyone. And did anyone else catch it? Did you catch Grogu trying to say this is the way?
I heard him babbling after Din had said this is the way. And my assumption was that he was trying to say it maybe, but it didn't sound anything like
No, it didn't sound anything like Bo-Katan said it, Din said it, and then Grogu made noises, and then Bo-Katan looked back at him like, did he just try to say what it was? So I think I'm down your lines now. He's going to be talking in the next few episodes.
Yeah, I think so. Well, look, I was with the Dr. Pershing stuff mostly. I mean, it kept my attention. I loved exploring Coruscant. I mean, as far as just taking a tour of Coruscant, that was cool. I thought we saw more Coruscant here in this episode than we have maybe in any other movie or show thus far. I mean, we're literally taking a guided tour. Here's this. Here's the very peak of the tallest mountain of Coruscant. And it just kind of blew my mind. I've only thought of it as just a city, but yeah, I guess there's an actual terrain underneath all that.
Everything underneath it. Yeah. Because, we already know that there's layers. You can go down in the belly of Coruscant. So, that goes, who knows how deep that goes.
Right.
So the fact that it goes that low, we have to be up in the clouds, up in the upper atmosphere of this planet.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Seeing the taxi that they were in, that went out to the Imperial, basically junkyard.
Mm-hmm.
That was all cool. But I think there's more to this episode than people are missing, because I caught a lot. I watched it a second time.
Okay.
And I caught things where he was talking about his cloning and how it could be used in the right way. It can be, a positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
What if his cloning techniques and everything were used towards Snoke that we know in the further episodes. Like his cloning techniques were the ones that actually brought Snoke in multiple forms that we know him.
Oh, well, I think that's a thought that's gone through since Dr. Pershing has been around. I mean, you talk about this era, it's going to bridge the gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. And I think, the whole cloning thing has been kind of on the radar, and it would be a step one, step two. I mean, eventually, I don't know if we'll ever see Snoke, but probably, actually, they're probably working towards like mending some of those Snoke related things that the sequels did. But yeah, I've thought about that before. I figured that's what the whole Persian character was about.
I think I'm having technical issues.
Yeah, your camera's pretty pixelated, and
And I think
there's a
on our feed,
bit of a delay too.
yeah. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna back out real fast. I'm gonna come back in. Sorry, guys, a little bit of technical issues happening here.
Ah,
Okay,
all right.
let's see if
Yen.
that fixes the issue. Sorry about that. I should know what we should have some crazy music and some fun stuff. Who knows?
Uh,
Where were we before our technical oopsies?
you're talking about your thoughts on Snoke, Pershing being kind of a lead up to Snoke.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit. I don't know how much it's going to actually play into it, because I think all the his work that he has, obviously it's done because he's going to play no more part in it because of. Well, let's just talk. Let's play the scene. I mean, there's a little bit here when he gets caught. Basically they use a mind flare on him.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to talk a little bit about this. Her name was G68. I think she actually gave her name later.
Yeah.
But who is she? Is she of any importance? Will we see her again?
I I think yes. Yeah,
Eliza Eliza Keene, I think her name was.
this is enough of an introduction where I think we'll see her again. We have seen her before. She was on
Off Gideon's ship. They said they passed away.
Moff Gideon's ship. Yeah, there was like one episode where it kind of focused on her a little bit as kind of an officer on that ship. I don't know who she is currently. If she's still, is she ex Empire, current Empire, current First Order, maybe? Like it's nefarious, whatever it is. I was a little confused by it because it's like I know First Order's end game and their goal is to clone Palpatine, Snoke, get all
Yeah.
that going and back. We're not going to see that for another couple decades in the timeline, but that's kind of what they eventually wind up to in the sequels. So if you're going to do that, and that's a big goal for you, why the hell would you fry the brain of the cloning expert? Like he's trying to do good or whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, are you kind of shooting yourself in the foot, getting rid of somebody who's has that much expertise in the field of cloning?
Yeah, right. Because he's talking about when he has his like introduction, when he's on like the floor in front of everybody, he's talking about how like he's marrying his work with the Kaminoans.
Right.
Who else is doing that? But I think it's so taboo for cloning right now. They basically they wiped that off. That is something that is not done. Because he even asked that little droid, "Can I do this on my own time? Can I like continue my studies?" It's like it's against the law.
Yeah.
So he's not able to. So yeah, that was it. I mean, I thought it was cool seeing this. I know they weren't Star Destroyers; they were too small. But those cruisers in the shipyard when they actually go in to go ahead and get his material, I thought that was awesome. So there was a few things. What else did? Oh, okay. Here's something I caught when he was sitting in his little cubicle.
Mm-hmm.
The guy coming around, he mentioned that did you catch? He mentioned that they were decommissioning the Alliance fleet.
Yeah, I did hear him say that. Yeah.
I didn't catch it the first time. Maybe I was just kind of too like I don't know. Like we said, we were a little.
Well, that's something in the books, right? Where and that's one of your complaints about Mon Mothma is that she kind of demilitarizes the
Everything,
galaxy
yeah.
after the war's done.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. When they mentioned, I thought that was awesome. Like, okay, we're getting some, you know, actual stuff saying that, they basically dismantled the military.
Yeah.
And that's what led to the rise of, the First Order.
There were some real shade thrown at the New Republic in this episode. A couple of scenes. The first one being the elitists kind of, clapping and glad handing Pershing,
Yeah.
not being so rich and kind of aloof, like, oh, the Empire, the rebels, the New Republic. I can't really keep track anymore, as though, one is no different than the other. And that's as far as watchers of the original Star Wars trilogy, we know there couldn't be more of a difference
Any
between the
different.
Empire and the Rebels.
Well, I think they were drawing the line right there because I think that was a thread throughout this whole Pershing stuff.
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, Pershing's looking at when he's actually on that table, he's like, you know what? New, Empire, New Republic, there's zero difference. It's just someone different in power.
Right. Well, the New Republic with the mask or the basically, the road to hell with good intentions. You know what I mean? Like, they're not as bold faced, evil and like order and as the Empire is, but they're still making mistakes and maybe even, just some of the policies that that Mon Calamarian guy where it's like, oh heavens no, this isn't a mind flare. We're not doing it to that degree where it's going to be, but we are, forcibly taking out some part of your brain. It's still like ethically
Yeah.
bad. So yeah, that's what I mean. Where there was some shade thrown at the New Republic. I think maybe why their hints as far as why maybe even why Leia has such a disagreement with the establishment down the road, and Leia has kind of broken off into her own separate faction within the New Republic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand. And that stuff is interesting. That grander stuff is. I was just a little confused as far as like it's
The
almost like the
placement
trope.
of this was kind of
It
odd.
was. I almost would have rather had this sprinkle. You break this up because this was like a 40-minute stretch. I mean, this is almost an entire episode by itself. If you cut the Mandalorian
Oh
stuff
yeah,
out
I
of this
was ready
episode.
to take my break and catch my 30-minute Mandalorian during my
Yeah.
lunch, and I seen it was 58 minutes. I was both surprised and like, oh, disappointed at the same time almost.
I think I would have been able to accept it easier if the Pershing stuff was chopped up into little bits and we got scenes sporadically shown to us throughout the first 3 episodes of The
Are they
Mandalorian.
leading this to an episode either next week or the following week of the return of Moff Gideon?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Because
Yeah,
they already
well,
had the conversation at the table. Oh, I thought he escaped. Oh no, then they said that was like an escape. Then it was like, no, they put him into a mind flare. It's all propaganda. He's dead. And that whole
yeah,
thing. And then he had, G68 sitting there. And
right.
then, Pershing, they know each other. And they're kind of like, I think she's a mole for Gideon.
Yeah, I think so too. And Giancarlo Esposito, I mean, like, you can't have an actor like that, just for you want to bring him back, basically. When you have a star caliber like that, you want to bring him back.
You gotta be careful.
It was a trap.
And I think he enjoys being in Star Wars too. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of those actors where he just gets a kick out of being in the Star Wars universe. So
yeah, you can't keep him on the shelf for long. If we know he's there,
No.
and now you're dropping hints that he's escaped, possibly he didn't
Right.
go to the War Tribunal. What happened there? And now
Yeah.
they're setting up more story within this actual world now, because now, okay, Din's been redeemed. Now Bo indirectly has been as well. So she's now part of this group. Where do they go now with that? Do they go back to Mandalore?
I don't know. That's what we're still asking. That's my other problem with this episode is the lack of progression in the Mandalorian's plotline. It's once again, it feels like we're doing a lot, but we're also doing very little. I expected, if they were gonna get through the Bathe in the Waters quest so quickly, like they did, I expected that we would get our new mission. So it's okay. So what we thought was going to be the season-long quest for Din Djarin, turns out it's already settled, and we have a lot of episodes left. Let's get into what we're doing now. But here we are. We've just, had episode 3. Next week is going to be episode 4. and this is only an 8-episode season. Well, before we know, we're going to be halfway through this thing without really knowing what the hell Mando's doing this season.
Yeah, what are we? Did they actually make a mistake of writing a season 4 already, and make it actually one long season in reality?
Yeah, this is starting to feel almost like season 2.5 or something. Like where are we going? Like, I mean, there's enough episodes left, I guess, but because it's a shorter quantity of shows this season, I just expected more to be happening on the Mandalorian front.
Yeah, because they gave us that shock and awe of the mythosaur,
Yeah.
and now Bo asked Den about it. He didn't know anything about it. She kept it to herself.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's with everybody, and they're all welcome. The only one that didn't welcome him was Viz. Was it Viz?
I keep seeing Pre Vizsla, but I don't think so. I think that's the character that was in the Clone Wars. This is a descendant of Pre Vizsla, maybe post Vizsla. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he's the only one that wasn't happy that they welcomed both of them back in, and definitely Bo-Katan.
Right.
So there's got to be something. I think they have to go back to Mandalore. Like they as a whole clan, they have to go back to Mandalore.
Yeah, and why wouldn't the armorer want, if now that there's confirmation that Mandalore is indeed habitable, or I don't know, habitable, but at least you can walk around on it and it's not cursed or whatever. I would expect that this clan of Mandalorians, the first thing they would want to do is like, well, let's go back, let's go see it for ourselves. Let's all go
and see what we can do. Can we start rebuilding the planet that we know? It's not like it'll take centuries to get it back to what they knew,
right? But
start the process of healing of the planet,
or just the simple fact of claiming ownership of your home planet. Like, we're here, we're the clan that are, like you said, rehabilitating the planet, and we're here first. We're kind of laying claim. That's kind of a big deal. So all those straggling Mandalorians out there in the galaxy, they come back,
start coming home.
Yeah, and this clan has dibs, basically. They can plant their clan's flag on the planet and be like, we are the leaders.
And not to mention, Din's got the Darksaber.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
No,
and
I did
watch thing. So
I watched a few things about that and why he has issues with like wielding it. There's an actual really good clip with Kanan telling Sabine like how to use it, and how all of a sudden it becomes easier for her to use within the training. Like the longer she trains with, the more and more it becomes light for her. Right. And basically her mind she knows who she is. So Bo-Katan knows who she is. Like there's no confusion. This is what I'm doing. This is my point in life. This is my purpose in life. Right now, Din doesn't know truly what his purpose is. Yeah. So if he's not of one mind, using the Darksaber, it's going to be heavy.
I just thought of something while you were talking about that. Do you think it's possible that we'll see Din Djarin get in a scuffle or something, and either he drops the Darksaber or gets loose, gets out of his reach, and we see Grogu pick it up and start wielding it like effortlessly because he's a Jedi? We'll start seeing some almost like Attack of the Clones Yoda jumping around.
Oh God, I hope not. We've already seen him do front flips. Oh Lord. No, I hope not. No, I think it is gonna fall to him in some manner.
Yeah.
I think somehow he's gonna lay claim to it. How, I don't quite know yet. But I think it's before the whole thing is said and done, and when the show is wrapped up as a whole, he'll be holding it. He'll be on Mandalore. He'll be leading the Mandalorians. I think that's how this is all going. I think the name The Mandalorian and seeing Din Djarin is not being truthful to what the show is. It was the end of the first episode when we actually meant The Mandalorian.
Hey, that's possible. Look, Grogu, and I thought was maybe like not a distraction, but maybe like the quest for the first season. And they got him to Luke, and I thought maybe Mando himself. I didn't expect to get, them be reunited in Book of Boba Fett, so I don't think anybody expected that. But it's like it's well defined now. Like now that we're hip deep into season 3, we know that the Mandalorian is Din Djarin plus Grogu. Like that's established, and that's what's on all the merchandise and the T-shirts, and like we know what this show is now. It's not just the Mandalorian; it's also Grogu. But yeah, I think you're right. At the end of the day, the titular Mandalorian, probably after however many seasons they plan on going through, is going to be, turns out to be the one that was the show's named after.
He's the chosen one. You are the chosen one.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So real quick, I'll go back to that whole. There's a book called The Alphabet Squadron. Basically, it's a bunch of ragtag group, bunch of A wings, X wings, B wings. That kind of what makes up the squadron. But there is a main character called Erica Quell. She actually flew for Shadow Wing. She was a part of the elite TIE fighter pilots. They're the ones that actually went through with Operation
Cinder?
Cinder, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And she defected. And she actually wound up in one of these rehabilitation groups.
Okay.
And then she was actually the leader of this Alphabet Squadron to find the rest of the remnants of Shadow Wing. And this is all taking place right about in the exact same time we're talking now. So, man, there's a little bit of hope that we may see some of that, because I think it'd be really fun, because we're seeing this squadron that came onto the planet Bo-Katan's planet was, or her castle was.
Yeah.
So we've seen that. That is a reminiscent of a Shadow Wing type of attack. So that all takes, but one of the things that really got to me as well, do you know that little that droid that Dr. Pershing had to talk to during this episode?
Yeah, the therapist or whatever.
Yeah,
the social worker.
Yeah, exactly. There is one of those in Alphabet Squadron, but it's not like that. It's an old torture droid. It's essentially the exact same thing that she's got to report to and talk to and kind of go through these therapy sessions with.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So it was the exact same thing, just different ways in the book brought to the actual live action. And I think that's why I enjoyed this episode a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because the Alphabet Squadron books should be the movies. There's 3 books. They're fantastic books laid out for them. That could easily been a trilogy of movies for them. But yeah, you know how they crap the bed right now in the movies.
Yeah, true. Well, the Mandalorian season 3 can get back on track for me personally. Like, let's say if next episode was longer in length, like this one is, and we're actually going to follow Din Djarin and the Armorer and her clan and Bo-Katan, and we get some real progression in that story, and make it feel like we have some sort of direction for the rest of the season after next episode, that would be cool with that. I'd be like, okay, we're good. What I worry about though is, like, now that we've set this precedent of like kind of disappearing from Mando for most of an episode, they could do anything next episode. Maybe next episode we barely see Mando again. Like, I don't know. And that's part of me is enjoying the fact that I have no idea what's coming episode to episode, and another part of me is just like, what's actually happening this season? Is there any kind of?
They're starting to do that in all their Star Wars Disney Plus shows.
Yeah,
there's an episode or two that's really disconnected,
right,
from the actual show itself. Now there was enough connection in this episode for me to say it wasn't quite like the the Luke and Boba Fett episode and Din Djarin. That was basically a Mandalorian episode. So, but yeah, I mean, I can understand exactly what you're saying, that you need something. We need a mid-season like finale. Give us something big. So if we're only in episode 4 of 8, give us a big event that's leading towards it. Give us something. End it with us seeing Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
Standing on another Star Destroyer. With another group.
Yeah, and I'll say again, like, I think I have a real problem with just the structure of it all. Like, if we had this Pershing stuff broken up and sprinkled evenly, distributed through 3 episodes, as opposed to just basically having 5 minutes of Mando and then sitting here and watching 45 minutes of Pershing, I think I was sitting here just being like, where are we? What are we doing? What's the end? Like, I was so confused that it was hard for me to enjoy it while I was watching it.
Yeah. And it was funny. I caught a couple tells from Pershing, like when he was first in that the big conference room and he was talking to everybody. When he talked about his mother, before he talked about his mother, he stopped and tugged on his ear.
Yeah.
and then started talking. He did the exact same thing when he lied to the counselor droid.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
he was
Okay.
lying about his mother when he first heard him talking, and then he was lying to the droid about having, thoughts about his coworkers.
You know what I thought for a bit, and this could still play out, honestly. I thought that the Pershing that we were seeing on Coruscant was a clone, and I thought that Dr. Pershing was maybe testing on himself to like clone himself, and because there is a moment when they're all sitting at the table and they're all kind of commiserating about their past and the Empire, and they're like, "Hey, what do you miss the most, or the past?" And he there's a moment where he's like, "The past," like he doesn't have that in his memory
Had no
banks or
memory or
whatever.
anything from it. Yeah.
Right, and there was a moment I was like, "Well, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe he's just like a clone of Pershing, or maybe Pershing is just like a bank of clones." I don't know. And honestly, jury's still out. Maybe the guy that got fried here this episode is just one of many Pershings. I don't know.
I actually like that theory.
And it
I
gives
like
credence to the
that
fact
theory.
of him telling a story about his mother or whatever. If he's lying, then maybe he's just making something up, or maybe this is something that was implanted into him and he knows that, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it is weird. He's a weird character. And I think it's weird for him to be in the show earlier and then back in the show so heavily to be the star of an episode just to sweep him away and get rid of him. Like that's strange too.
Yeah. They didn't earn no kind of story arc in this episode for him like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So I did not think of that. That wasn't something that crossed my mind. But
But
that
what better test subject? Like if you were a scientist and you're in the field of cloning and you have all these dictations of like how and why, and you can't do this, you can't do that. Maybe like a lot of scientists out there, they're just like, well, I'm going to break the rules, and I have access to my own skin, and I have my own,
yeah.
approval.
And he's hiding out in some, outer rim world,
Right,
and then he purposely gets this version of him caught
right. Maybe just to get
to
his
see if the
name
New
clear.
Republic is any different than the Empire. And
It
they
could be
find
in,
out they kill him.
yeah. It could be intel gathering. It could be like, well, let me send this clone out to see if they'll actually even let me, if I really kind of went to the New Republic, if they let me research this stuff, and he's getting his answer. I don't know. I think that would be, if it ends up being that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that I agree with you. That, see, like I said, that never crossed my mind. I never thought it was
a trap.
I never thought it would be a trap. But as a whole, this was a different type of episode. Like I said, I enjoyed it a little bit more because I like the Alphabet Squadron books, and it
Yeah.
had a lot of very similar things happening there within this episode. But bringing back, Dr. Pershing, and then meeting G68, and we knew she was up to no good immediately because he's talking. She walks in during that, and then she's sitting there on the bench when he walks into the housing. So
A
they
lot of
were
lingering
setting that
looks.
up. Yeah, a lot of little
Yeah.
crumbs. The box of biscuits he drops at the
Mhm.
door. So she was manipulating him from the beginning. But there was a theory that I seen earlier today that she's actually pregnant, because
Okay.
it was weird, and I didn't notice it. But every time she had a chance, she was adjusting her her uniform and kind of holding her stomach. Like every time she had a chance, her hands was on her stomach, and it could be completely in left field. And I'm not sure where it would. I don't know if it's a clone type situation happening,
Yeah.
but once I seen it, heard the person talking about it, and them showing the clips that align with their theory, I'm like, now I can't unsee it.
See, what if, you know how I was confused about why you would get rid of cloning scientists? What if she's aware that this Pershing is a clone and she was just disposing of it? But I guess there's easier ways of disposing of it. But then again, if he gets caught and he dies within the New Republic's custody, then he's off. He's, officially listed as deceased or whatever. I don't know. I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. If we have some quality writing here, then my confusion will be elated and addressed maybe in future episodes. Hopefully. I don't know.
Well, to this point, I kind of have been like other episodes. Everything has, if they've laid the foundation for something, they've answered it. So hopefully this is not a one-off. Hopefully
Yeah.
they didn't order 7 episodes and they needed an 8th, so they made this one.
Yeah.
But I think it was just a one-off episode. We're not going to remember. We're just going to move on from this. So what do you
So,
think?
so long, Dr. Pershing, maybe, question marks.
I really think you're onto something. Now you got me screwing in my head.
Yeah, watch it a third time and see if there's any hints towards that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch them very often twice, but this one here, I turned on the second time, just kind of watched through it. Just as, like I said, there was so much. I feel like there was so much in it, and there was so
Yeah.
much like a layer that you have to be paying attention to see, or
Right.
pay attention, or know other references in the worlds of the books and everything, which you shouldn't need that.
Right.
But seeing that I did
It is
have some
cool
of
to
the
connect
knowledge.
those things.
What was that?
It is cool to connect those things.
But I mean, we'll see where we go for it. We need to see Mandalore again. We need to see the Mythosaur again. Now that they showed it, you can't you can't put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to be back next week, next Friday at 8:30 p.m. to discuss Chapter 20, also known as Episode 4 of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Don't forget, we are also covering Ted Lasso currently. That started up this week. There's a video now, the after show of the first episode of Season 3 of Ted Lasso. We'll be doing that every Wednesday night, so be sure to check that out. And we have all kinds of other stuff coming up. Be sure to watch out for trailers, any big trailers drop. There's Dadnarok Arcade and stuff too. So if you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel already, be sure to go ahead and do that.
Okay, and I guess until we see you next week, this is the way.
This is the way. See ya.